You either obey or you fight. And a law firm the size of Paul Weiss, a global law firm that makes billions and billions of dollars, had an opportunity to defend their values, their morals, their ethics against the bully that is Donald Trump, who put them on a blacklist to pay them back because he doesn't like the positions they take or the clients they represent or the lawyers that they employ. And they're all against Donald Trump, and he wants to fire back at them, pay them back now that he's the president of the United States for as long as that lasts. So other firms have chosen to fight and file lawsuits against the Trump administration, and they've won. That didn't give apparently Paul Weiss any confidence. It had a battle inside between its litigators who fight and its transactional lawyers who just want to make a deal. Guess who won out? And what Donald Trump did next. I talk about it with Ben Meiselas, and we criticize this particular firm, not because we got an in for this firm. I know that firm. I know lawyers at that firm. I almost worked at a firm. I almost worked at that firm. I worked at another firm that was very, very similar just up the street. It's because it matters to our profession and our profession's role as an institution and a pillar of our society, and that holds up our constitutional republic. We talk about it. I talk about it with my co-founder of Legal AF, Ben Meiselas, on a recent edition of Legal AF, the podcast. Take a listen.
I want to talk about the capitulation of some big law firms, and the biggest capitulation we've seen was from the Paul Weiss Rifkin law firm. To give people the scale of these law firms, they have thousands of lawyers, big staffs across not just the United States, but across numerous countries. They have litigation teams and then different litigation practices. There could just be whole teams devoted to entertainment, political, real estate, bankruptcy, corporate litigation, just all with hundreds of lawyers who work in different areas. And then international law, then transactional. They do the deals, and they do mergers and acquisition deals, and they advise the banks and do all of these things. And so you probably sometimes when you're driving in a city, you see on the buildings the name of law firms like Paul Weiss and other two-name law firms, Covington and Burling, is another one who Trump did this executive order about. But one of the things that Trump hates these big firms, because these big firms used to never give Donald Trump the time of day. They always viewed him as kind of phony. And Trump always viewed these law firms as kind of representing the gilded kind of corporate club that Trump was never a part of. And also they hire a lot of the lawyers who used to work at the Department of Justice, who Donald Trump hates because they were law and order prosecutors. And so Trump is now kind of using his retribution tour to go after the law firms themselves. And by the way, these law firms are often like stepping stones from going in and out of working in the public sector to private sector. A lot of judges get their starts, federal judges, Supreme Court judges get their starts working at these big law firms. They recruit heavily at the top law schools. If you're in a big law school, there's a whole process where you go around, you meet the law firms. And they represent a lot of corporate interests. They say they do pro bono work, I think, to try to soften some of the other stuff that they do in their defense of kind of corporations and their litigation in favor of corporations. But Trump's going after them by name. He's name checking them in executive orders. And so he's done this with a firm called Covington, which by and large has just like ignored it, was their approached more than anything. You have Perkins Coie, and they're fighting it. They filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump. They're standing up. And then you have Paul Weiss, and Paul Weiss capitulated, boom, quickly. And their chairman, this guy, Brad Karp, rushed to be with Donald Trump and Donald Trump's advisors. Please, Donald, what can we do? We're sorry. We're going to do anything we want to do. You tell us. So, oh my God, Donald Trump put this Paul Weiss firm, Brad Karp. Do we have the photo of Brad Karp, Salty. There he is right there. I took away his identifying information from the Paul Weiss website, but that's what the guy looks like right there. He's the chairman of this sprawling law firm, and he rushed to, Donald, please take this executive order. We'll throw any of our lawyers under the bus. You just tell me, Donald, what can we do to get on your good side? So Donald Trump put them through a total walk of shame. He issued this statement that just shamed them, and they had to agree to the statement. They agreed to provide $40 million worth of what they call pro bono legal services to Donald Trump's agenda, whatever that's going to be. They attacked their former partner, who Donald Trump absolutely hates. And they said he engaged in wrongdoing, which in my opinion is basically, defaming him. He was worked as a special counsel, to the district attorney's office, Mark Pomerantz. And they bragged about it to their associates after they got this deal. We are pleased to, dear members of the Paul Weiss community, we're pleased to announce Trump's executive order relating to our firm was withdrawn a short while ago. We want to share with you the final agreement. The commitments reaffirmed today are consistent with Judge Simon Rifkin's 1963 statement of firm principles, which states, among other things, that we believe in maintaining by affirmative efforts a membership of partners, associates reflecting a wide variety of religious, political, ethnic, and social background. What the hell are you even talking about, Brad Karp? And I guess, if you're in trying to appease the Trump regime, I don't know if you're a client of Rifkin, Paul Weiss Rifkin, if you see how easily they fold. How are these people supposed to represent you? They're the biggest cowards ever. So my biggest wag the finger, shame on you, Brad Karp. You've disgraced yourself. You've disgraced your family. You've disgraced the Karp name. You've disgraced the legal profession. You are an embarrassment to anybody who has a law degree. And frankly, all of the associates who work there, I think, have some reflecting to do to work for a brutal coward like you, who not only bends the knee, but does it with glee. Shame on you, you disgusting person. You brought shame to our legal practice. Michael Popok.
Thanks for that lead-in. I'm one of the people that worked at a major New York law firm like Paul Weiss, and I know people that work at Paul Weiss. I know people that had departments at Paul Weiss. I worked at another one called Skadden Arps when I started my career. I was shocked that Paul Weiss decided not to fight this out. And what's coming out in the reporting is that there was a battle internal, as you would expect, between the corporate transactional lawyers, the ones that you described as being the deal makers, and the litigators who tried cases. The litigators wanted to go to the mattresses and war against the Trump administration. Because Paul Weiss is, if it was known as anything before today, before you're castigating them appropriately. If they were known as anything, it was like the first law firm where Gentiles and Jews worked next to each other. Paul and Weiss, in New York, that was something. It was a place that hired people not only from the Ivy League schools, which at the time around its founding, were anti-Semitic and were hiring certain types of people. They were hiring from other law firms, other law schools that took Jews and took other people, and Skadden did the same thing. And it was always a very, very highly sought after law firm. It's top 20 in the world. It had a revenue of about $3 billion, just to put the scale on this. And so that fight between the litigators and the transactional people broke into kind of public. Apparently, Karp went to another major firm that's well known for its pugilism, its fighting. It went to another major firm in New York and tried to enlist them to file a lawsuit. And a lawyer at that other major firm, who happens to be close to Trump and has represented Trump in various matters, was actually willing to take the case against the Trump administration. That's a profile in courage. He was willing to take the case and sign the pleadings. But at the last minute, he also has a relationship with Robert Kraft, who owns the New England Patriots, who's buddies with Trump. And they brokered a deal through this firm to bring in Karp on bended knee into the White House and broker a deal. The other egg on the face that Karp has is that the deal that Trump trumpeted and touted is not the deal that he told his partners had been signed. And there's language differences that don't line up, where Karp told his partners in order to get them to endorse it, because there was a vast majority that said, yes, we'll take the deal because we want to stay in business. He said, well, we're just going to have to give him $40 million. By the way, that's just at $1,000 an hour for an average young associate. You do the math. That's a lot of lawyers. That's 20 lawyers doing work, over the next couple of years, full time. And it was supposed to be on things that like they could get behind, like fighting anti-Semitism on campus. But by the time Trump announced it, it was my entire policy agenda will be supported with free legal service by Paul Weiss and the rest of the major law firms, thinking that Paul Weiss would have a backbone. Because you missed it. You didn't mention the timeline. A judge, Beryl Howell, who used to be the chief judge of the same court that Jeb Boasberg is now the chief judge of, the district court in D.C., she had already ruled in favor of the Perkins firm in Washington and enjoined that very same proclamation, almost identical against them, to remove their security clearance, to not let clients of the firm do business with the government. She said, you're not, the Judge Beryl Howell told the Trump administration, you're not the Queen of Hearts and Alice of Wonderland. You can't look at somebody that you are displeased by and say, off with your head. There's due process considerations. There's constitutional considerations. There's First Amendment considerations. You're enjoined. So everybody thought, all right, that'll be the signal to firms like Covington and Paul Weiss that the courts will be able to protect you. Don't cut the deal. Because if you show that you're going to bend over, you see what's happening. I just did a hot take comparing Paul Weiss within 24 hours of Columbia bending the knee and agreeing in return for having the $400 million grant given back to them. They're willing to put their Middle East and African Studies department under a vice provost who's obviously going to censure them and make sure that it's in keeping with Donald Trump's anti-DEI background. So Karp may not survive. He shouldn't survive after you just excoriated him. But I don't think he survives potentially his own partners now that there's this mismatch, intentional mismatch between what he told the partners and what Donald Trump is crowing about. But it's even worse than that, because it sends the signal to Trump allegedly has 14 law firms. These are only the 3 that we know about. There's supposedly a secret list of at least 14 that he's going to issue proclamations against. And now you're going to have to decide, are you going to be Perkins and you're going to get a law firm and go get a judge in your camp and protect you? Or are you going to give out money like Facebook and Amazon to Donald Trump to make him not hurt you anymore? Don't let daddy hurt you anymore. And you're going to have to make that decision. And if you're a client of the firm, I would if I had major business with Paul Weiss, I'd pull it today in response to that. I'm not sure Karp survives. It was people like George Conway posted because he knows the firms like I do in New York. He was like, I had to rub my eyes. Paul Weiss just cut that deal? Are you Judge Rifkin's law firm? Are you kidding me? And so now this is exactly what you're seeing. Columbia capitulates, right? Now he's turning Pam Bondi on and authorizing all of his other departments to go look at major law firms and their hiring practices to make sure they're not helping Black and brown people get a leg up in their hiring practice. Welcome back. We do that show every Wednesday and Saturdays at 8 o'clock Eastern time on the Midas Touch YouTube. We've been doing it for 5 years. We're top 10 in the world, regardless of the type of podcast. I can't even believe I'm even saying that. That's a testament to you. You also helped us found this channel, Legal AF. Take a minute and hit the free subscribe button. If you want an ad-free version of that full-length podcast, goes on about an hour. You can get it in 2 places: my Substack, Michael Popok, the Substack, and at our Patreon for Legal AF, patreon.com/legalaf for full-length ad-free versions of the podcast. So until my next reporting I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.